Welcome to South Asian Environment Dialogue. Those of you who see this program regularly know that we have been discussing the range of issues on environment, climate change in this program. It's being hosted by the Climate TV channel Canada, along with the Plurals India and No TV Bangla, a major YouTube channel in Bangladesh. And we have been working and talking about the climate change. All of you know that about a week back, we had the COP26 in Glasgow. And for the last 1.5 months, we have been only discussing climate change. But now the COP26 is over. We have discussed how good or bad it was. We will be discussing it in future. But today we will be discussing another extremely important issue facing South Asia right now, air pollution. We call it air pollution 2.0. Now, we see that in the last 1 year, with the rampaging COVID and the lockdown and everything, air pollution has been a bit of a pushback. And we knew that it was because of the fact the activities had been reduced. But this year, with lockdown is no more there, though there may not be absolutely normalcy, but majority of the people are now going out, activities have started, and the air pollution has come back. It's come back in such a vengeance. A city like Delhi had to think about stopping the schools, construction. Anumita is here, we'll be talking about it. And I was just checking the data today across South Asia. I was checking in Delhi, I was checking in Kolkata, I was checking in Kathmandu, Karachi, and Dhaka. And I found everywhere, Delhi may be at the peak, but everywhere it was poor to very poor to severe. So the air pollution has come back big time in South Asia. And it's not a new thing. We know that Bangladesh, Pakistan, and India are the top 3 countries in terms of air pollution and PM 2.5. So we are going to discuss today about air pollution, where we are right now, what is the way out, and all these things. And I have a fascinating panel to discuss that with me. I have with me Anumita Roy Choudhury. She is a major scientist and researcher from Center for Science and Environment, Delhi, India. One of the most prominent face regarding air pollution in India. Welcome, Anumita, to the show.
Very nice to be here, Jayanto.
Absolute privilege to have you. I have with me Dr. Abhijit Chatterjee. Professor Chatterjee is a scientist at the Bose Institute, Kolkata, India, been working on air pollution and climate change, especially the regional pattern, which we'll be discussing today. Welcome, Professor Chatterjee, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely privileged. And I have with me also Dr. Abdul Salam. Dr. Salam is from Dhaka University. He has been also working on the Bangladesh and as well as regional air pollution for a long time in collaboration with various scientists. And I had the privilege of hosting him before. Dr. Salam, welcome again to the show.
Thank you, Jayanto. Nice to be here always.
It's great. It's such a good reunion. And I have with me a new person adding to the reunion. I have with me Dr. Khan Alam. Dr. Alam is from the Peshawar University, Pakistan. His expertise is on atmospheric physics, aerosol, and also the health impacted by climate change. Khan Alam Saab, I hope your voice is fine now, your bandwidth is fine. Welcome to the show. You are on mute right now, so you may have to unmute yourself to speak. Can you unmute yourself?
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Your voice is fine. And I have with me also Dr. Bhushan Taladhar. Again, I had the privilege of hosting him before. It's such a privilege to host you again. He is the head of the Environment Department and member of the City Planning and Kathmandu Metropolitan Club, and has many other responsibilities in Nepal, working on air pollution for a long time. Welcome to the show. You are also on the mute. Yes, please.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be back on your show.
Great. Absolute great. And now we are all set to start the ball rolling. And I'll start with Anumita. Not because he's the lady in the show, but also because she represents the city which is peak in South Asia. So Anumita, how bad it is right now in Delhi?
Jayanto, I mean, none of you can even imagine, what kind of smog episode we have gone through very recently. And we know this happens every year. This happens around this time. And this is the smog that builds up during the early part of the winter and all through the winter. But this time it was so dramatic. Just after Diwali, and a lot of things came together. The whole winter inversion, trapping of the wind, meteorology turning adverse, trapping local pollution, and also the smoke from the stubble burning in the neighboring regions. All of that happened together. And there was this massive, severe smog. And it continued for quite a few days. And as you have already mentioned, that we had to declare emergency. An emergency that meant we had to shut down schools, construction, stop trucks, stop industry on coal, even stop power plants in the NCR. Imagine, right? So that is the scale of action that had to be taken. And some of these measures are still in force. But what is very interesting about this episode, Jayanto, this time, because the science that is available to Delhi right now is the whole forecasting science that SAFAR IITM does. But along with that, they also do something very interesting now for Delhi. They, in a very dynamic way, every hour, they estimate the contribution of different pollution sources to the air quality of Delhi. And in that, they take into account pollution coming from outside Delhi and the local pollution of Delhi. Now, during this period, when we took their data from 24th October to 8th of November, what we found that...
Who's doing it? IIT Delhi?
No, this is Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology.
Oh, IITM. Okay.
Right? Now, when we took their data, what we found for that period only, that the contribution of pollution coming from NCR region, that is outside Delhi, and plus stubble burning, if you combine that, that itself was 69%.
Oh.
Imagine, okay? But when you're looking at only the local sources of pollution in Delhi, because that could also be differentiated, then we found that in Delhi during this part, only if you take the local pollution, then vehicles were the maximum, half of the contribution. Now, this gives us a big lesson that if we have to fix the problem of Delhi, we have to fix the problem of the entire Indo-Ganges plain and the region.
Absolutely. I think we'll be talking a lot on this regional part. But before I kind of go over to others and know the scenario in other parts of South Asia, very quick supplementary question to you. That last year, COVID, almost not by design, but by default, has pushed the air pollution back. So you now feel that the COVID honeymoon is over, vis-a-vis air pollution is concerned, and we are back to the old normal? The new normal has gone, the old normal has come back?
It is a new normal, and the normal that is back with vengeance. And only thing, the lasting reminder of COVID is that at least we could get to experience how low the pollution can get.
Exactly.
And one big lesson of that period is that not only the local pollution came down, it is also the regional influence of pollution on local pollution had also reduced dramatically.
Absolutely. I think regional pollution is something we keep on talking about. Let's know the Dhaka scenario first. Dr. Salam, Dhaka, I was seeing the data may not be as bad as Delhi, but it was also in the poorer side. So how is the situation? Let's know very quickly how the situation is compared to the last year, and then we'll kind of start talking about these regional things. Dr. Salam.
Thank you. Actually, she explained the situation very nicely with scientific evidence in Delhi. And Dhaka also has the same scenario. If you consider last year you already mentioned there are many events was not in action. So pollution was definitely less. But this year, it started like, vigorously. I have a sensor put all over Dhaka city, and first I give, alert in my mobile phone, like 100 microgram per meter cube. But after a few days, it's just, every second there is an alarm. So I made it 130. So still I saw many alarms. And in one side, I made 200 microgram per meter cube.
Still you are getting the alarms.
Every second alert. So you can imagine how bad the air quality is. This is, she mentioned actually, this is not only from Dhaka city, it's come from outside, come from other region, and on top of that, there is a lot of pollution inside Dhaka city too. And we have some estimates from Dhaka city, it's like 40 to 50% pollution come from outside. of Dhaka city, and it's regional and also this whole global too.
So this regional part is operating everywhere. The regional
Everywhere.
within a country, regional within the, I think, entire South Asia. We'll be discussing about it.
Better
Just
IGP.
to interrupt you thinking loudly, you should put up your sensors around the politician's house. You should put and let them around every second by this data. Then only something may happen on ground. Otherwise, nothing will happen. I'll come back to you. Khan Alam Saab, if you can, your bandwidth is okay. How is the situation in Pakistan right now?
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about the air pollution in Pakistan. So the situation is very critical nowadays, particularly in Lahore. Today, the air quality index in Lahore is around about 248, which is hazardous. And yesterday it was 269. This is in particular in one location, overall the average air quality index. But there are some other locations inside the Lahore. One is the Punjab University, Department of Zoology in Punjab University. There was the AQI index was more than 400 yesterday, and the particulate PM2.5 concentration was around about 369 microgram per meter cube. So the quality is hazardous in Lahore. The airport was shut down for the last 1 week. The school were shut down. The markets are closed, so everybody is in risk. So it's a very unhealthy air quality in the region. So the reason of this, since for the last 10 decades, we are facing this situation in Pakistan, but during the COVID-19, I mean, as you discussed it, that the situation become better and better. But after
that's due to COVID.
But after COVID-19, again this year, we have again this situation in the country, particularly the province of Punjab, that is very near to our neighbor country, India.
Absolutely.
There are
I'll come back to that. I think Anumita can throw more on light that later. I think the cities adjoining the Punjab border in other side in India and Pakistan are extremely affected.
The two side is facing.
I think they are part of the top 10 most affected or most polluted cities in the world. So
the Delhi is in the ranking number 1, and the Lahore is in the ranking number 2 in all the global cities.
We can't stop you at the border. You can't stop our air pollution in border, and we can't stop your air pollution in our border. So so no politician can do that. So I'll come back to you, but let's very quickly know the situation in Nepal and Kathmandu. What's the situation, Dr. Tulada?
Thank you. Luckily for us, it's not 248, the AQI. We're still at around 160 or so, which is still very, at an unhealthy level. But normally what happens in Nepal is that we lag behind the rest of South Asia a bit. Well, Delhi air pollution starts to increase during Diwali and peaks right in the early winter. We need to get deep into the winter before the air pollution in Kathmandu tends to peak. Like
very interesting point. Very interesting point.
End of December and so on. That's also because right now what you see is the transboundary pollution. It's coming to the southern belt of Nepal, the Indo-Gangetic Plains, the cities over there. There the air quality index has gone above 200 now. But Kathmandu, we'll get it when the westerly winds start bringing it later. And plus what happens is that because Kathmandu is a valley, the winter inversion that happens there, that happens a little bit later. So we can expect this to happen in the coming couple of weeks.
So it will get even worse. It can get even worse.
Yes. So if you guys want to, escape the air pollution right now, you've got about a week or so to.
I still remember maybe a couple of years back in the winter, I was in Kathmandu. I went up to your Buddhist temple up on a bit of a topper and could see actually the pollution coming and kind of coming towards Kathmandu. Visually, you can see the whole dust, smoke is coming towards. It's an unusual and unbelievable scene. So definitely, I think Kathmandu is one of the most affected cities.
Yes, if you fly into Kathmandu, it's basically a pollution watch flight. You can see the pollution, overcoming, from the west and from the south.
Exactly, absolutely. I'm coming to Professor Chatterjee. In fact, it's good that Dr. Tulada has flagged down this point of the season time of pollution. If you look at the Delhi and Kolkata's pollution, as a naive person, non-expert person, but somebody who has been following it for a few years. My understanding is Kolkata tends to get polluted later than Delhi. So, so what's the reason and what is the situation in there, Kolkata and around? Anumita just said about this this tropical meteorology study, which shows that, if I'm not wrong, about 70%, including the stubble burning, coming from outside. So what is the scenario in Kolkata? We had the NIRI report some time back, which talked about the apportionment of the pollution, but what's the actual ground reality?
Well, thank you, Jayanto. The situation, if you talk about today's scenario, I can tell you that it's around, on an average, 160, 170 microgram per meter cube of PM 2.5 concentration over Kolkata, on an average, okay, and the spatial average. And air quality index is coming around more than 250, near about 300 or something like that. Of course, it's not as bad as Delhi or something.
Sure.
But I have conducted some studies, though unpublished, but I can share some of the major findings that in Kolkata, whenever you get into winter after Diwali, after October end and so on, all these festivals gets over, when you get into the winter, this sudden jump from post-monsoon to winter, right? The sudden jump in PM concentration. And this, because of this jump, all these officials and all these urban local bodies, they invest their time, they invest their effort to control this PM concentration, this high PM loading in the atmosphere, in air. But the thing is, I had made some site segregated source apportionment, not for the entire PM 2.5, but each of, I mean, the 7 or 8 different size bins. And what I found, it is around 0.5 to 1 micron. This particular bin is actually rising up during winter, and rest of the size are remaining same. Okay. So this is called a like of ultrafine aerosol. It's a part of PM 2.5. Okay. And the major sources of this particular size bins of aerosols are 2 things, not the vehicular pollution. Vehicular pollution at the current scenario is not a headache for Kolkata. The headache for Kolkata is, number 1 is the biomass burning or solid fuel burning. You cannot imagine that how much solid fuel burning is impacting the Kolkata's air. Okay, because people are still using these wood and biofuel and all these things for their domestic cooking and all these things. And you know, the LPG price is rising up, so everybody is switching over to the wood, biomass, and everything. Okay,
but just to interrupt you, when you say Calcutta, even in the Calcutta slums, there's a lot of usage of gases and everything is much more now. You hardly see people using wood in Kolkata right now. So what's the source of this huge biomass burning you were talking about?
The dry leaves and the open waste burning is also comes.
That is another part.
Biomass, but the open waste burning is a frequent phenomenon in winter. Only the mechanical sweeper, the sweepers who are sweeping the road, they are collecting the leaves and they are burned everywhere. Okay, so it's kind of beyond control. And the second was is construction and demolition dust. These are the 2 major sources for this kind of PM 2.5.
So you are saying that biomass burning and construction are the 2 major sources.
Right.
If we look at the NIRI report, I'll come to Anumita on that after this. That also is saying the vehicular pollution is not kind of that responsible. But right now, Anumita said about the Delhi that I think 50% within the Delhi's internal pollution is being caused by vehicular pollution. That's in spite of the fact that Delhi uses so much CNG and LPG. In Kolkata, where 99% commercial vehicles run on diesel, how can you expect the contribution of vehicles to be so less? There's so much queries about this NIRI report. It's a scientist report, scientific report. I'm not questioning it. But what I'm asking, because there are pointed questions to be asked on that. Perhaps we'll do that later, but let's just take your point to Anumita. Anumita, what's your understanding on, very quickly, on Professor Chatterjee's point that vehicular pollution is not all that responsible? What do you think about it?
So I think Dr. Chatterjee has identified the key sources, and we know from the studies that biomass burning, construction, and vehicles. I mean, these are the 3 prominent. Now, what the different studies are showing in terms of their relative contribution, something that we will have to understand. Now, only thing that we have to understand that we So vehicles and biomass burning, they are part of the combustion sources where you are burning the fuel. And that is also more toxic in nature because along with the tiny particles, you're also getting a host of other gases. And the exposure to these toxic exposure is also high and a lot more health threatening. Construction is certainly, we have to see that how many live construction projects you have in Kolkata right now. So that is highly variable. Construction doesn't remain static all throughout the year. So you need to see that how many big or small construction happening, infrastructure construction happening, and that is a dust source. And therefore, there is an enormous opportunity to control the dust from construction, which should happen. Now, biomass burning, we know that the local solid fuel is a problem, but LPG penetration in Kolkata is high. But what Dr. Chatterjee is also saying that open eateries in Kolkata, you know, that have become an issue. So, and these are also very...
Those are mostly point sources. The open burning, major open burning are
the
point sources, largely point sources.
Yes. But there are a number of points.
Okay, the number of points.
But vehicles certainly remain a challenge because they are continuous. Waste burning construction are a little bit more episodic in nature, but vehicles are continuous throughout the year.
Okay, fine. I'll be coming to others to know about the possible major sources in your areas. But before that, I just have a small comment, just a brainstorming, that if we look at the other side, why it has gone down in 2020 during the COVID year? What didn't happen? So generally it seems as because people couldn't go out, there's less and less vehicles on the road because waste was created. It's not that waste was not created. If you leave, you have to create waste. So waste burning, I don't know how much it happened or it didn't happen, but it's for sure that vehicles had gone down to a large extent. So generally, it seems that the reduction in pollution level in 2020 may be something to do with the less amount of vehicles on road. But your study, Professor Chatterjee, is also very interesting and important. And as Anumita pointed out, I think we need to look at it, how it kind of unfolds over the time. Very interesting. But let's very quickly go to first Bangladesh. What are the major sources? Vehicles or not vehicles? Dr. Salam?
Thank you. And also nice discussion from Kolkata and Delhi. In Dhaka, actually, the almost similar sources like Delhi or Kolkata. But if I rank according to our research, traffic and biomass, these are the topmost.
Traffic means vehicles.
All kind of transport, car, bus.
That's vehicles.
All kind of vehicles operating in the state. Okay. Or you can add a little bit fossil fuel burning. So it gives you wider space. So fossil fuel burning is the number one. It includes all the traffic, bus, and also industries. And whenever fossil fuel is burning, number one. Number two is biomass burning. It's not only biomass burning inside the city. You know, many people in the rural areas are still cooking on biomass. So in cooking, rural cooking also contributes significantly to the rural areas as well as in Dhaka city. And third is construction one. And we have many mega projects operating in the city now. So construction is another important source. And definitely I agree with Dr. Chatterjee. He mentioned during winter time, a lot of these leaves collecting the city corporation people and they burn it in the morning. And also some people, not so many, they use leaves for, warming in winter morning. So these are the small sources, but it's also a huge contribution. Another one is garbage burning. Some city corporation people dump in some places, and some people, burn maybe intentionally or unintentionally. That's also contribute to the air pollution. And most importantly, in Dhaka pollution, transboundary pollution is another important source during the winter time. Maybe
we'll come to the transboundary, the next round of questions, but let's first know about the situation in Pakistan. Khan Alam Saab, you have to unmute yourself. What is the situation in Pakistan? You have to unmute yourself. Khan Alam Saab. Yes.
Yes, I'm agree the sources identified by Professor Chatterjee and Professor Rai Chaudhary and the friends from Dhaka as well. The major sources, particularly in this winter season, are in autumn. At the end of autumn, we have residue, some biomass burning.
Ranking-wise, what is the topmost one?
The biomass burning. Okay. Because in rural areas, mostly after the crop residue, the farmer burn the residue, and that's why we have a lot of smoke in the region. The second is the air pollution. Air pollution is also
air pollution from vehicles,
from anthropogenic sources, like from also the people use wood burning for heating purposes, because in rural areas we have short of energy sources like gas and electricity, so they particularly use wood for domestic purposes and for heating purposes as well. But the mostly important for this season is the meteorological situation. Due to the meteorological situation, such a scenario can be formed, because during this time the meteorological conditions are very calm, wind are blowing very slowly. That's why the pollution get enough time. They form a layer. The atmospheric inversion is very low, so the pollutants are trapped near the ground surface. So that's very dangerous for human health to inhale it easily. So this is the reason that these are some of the reasons that.
So the meteorological reasons also play a very important role.
Exactly.
Fine. I'll be coming to the regional part, but before that, to Kathmandu. Tulada Saab, what is, according to you, are the top ranked contributors or causes for air pollution in Nepal, particularly the urban areas like Kathmandu?
Well, we share similarities across South Asia, and the sources are also similar. Vehicles definitely rank right up there. And when I say vehicles, I mean both the tailpipe emissions as well as resuspended dust from the roads. A lot of the roads aren't paved, and winter season is really the dry season, so we don't get much rain. So we get that dust.
Resuspension of the dust.
So the resuspended dust is a major issue as well. Both are, of course, related with vehicles, the emission as well as that. Then comes the industrial, and particularly in winter is the brick kilns. The brick kilns start firing after the monsoon. They start preparing the green bricks, and then now slowly the firing starts, and that's what adds a lot of pollution in the winter as well. We have about 100 brick kilns in Kathmandu Valley, which is a small valley, but we still have quite a bit of brick kilns, and in the plains we have much more. And then, of course, what we've been talking is waste burning and biomass burning, which again in the winter increases because it gets cold. People like to burn a fire, to keep warm, or just to burn the leaves that have dropped, come in the autumn. So I think those three sources, vehicles, industry, particularly brick kilns, and waste burning are the top.
These are the main one. Very important. I asked this question, Professor Chatterjee, because you have flagged on a very important point. If we find that biomass burning gets a bigger role to play, I think it is easier to control. In comparison to vehicles, which are basically endless and numerous, you can't stop each and every vehicle and check the pollution. But biomass you can stop, because it's being done mostly by the officials and others like that. Officials being the KMC stops and others. So it's very important, very interesting to know. But does biomass burning, Professor Chatterjee, got a major chunk as per the NIRI report? I don't think so.
It was in second. Number one was vehicular emissions. The second
that's what I'm saying.
Well, and the biomass burning. But the problem is, it won't be good to comment on the NIRI report. It was also in 2017. Okay, so what I can tell you that the vehicular emissions, this term is quite, fishy. Like the pollutions or the pollutants which are coming directly from the vehicular emissions, vehicular exhaust, that is separate. Okay, what I found that because of this vehicular movement, the resuspension of the road dust is much higher than the emissions from the vehicles. Okay, so if you stop the vehicles,
then also it gets stopped.
Dust resuspension will reduce much more than what is coming out like carbon particles or oxides of nitrogen directly from the vehicles.
Fine. I think very interesting. I think we will, another day we'll talk more about this, but now whatever time we have, let's now go to the regional part of it. It's an extremely important part. I'll start with you, Professor Chatterjee. You've been working on the regional part of the pollution. Tell us very simply in a layman's language, in case of Kolkata at least, I think you are working mainly in Kolkata and the surrounding area, how the regional pollution is affecting us.
Well, for winter, I can tell you what I have found, that not more than 15 to 20% is coming from outside of Kolkata. Okay.
When you say outside the Kolkata, it's the same time. It's the Kolkata KMC you are talking about, or the KMD?
No.
The bigger Kolkata.
I mean, either Greater Kolkata, right?
Okay. The Kolkata metropolitan area.
Yeah.
Got it.
And as well as the easternmost part of the Indo-Gangetic Plain. Okay. Rather, during pre-monsoon, or rather during the summer season, the contribution from the entire Indo-Gangetic Plain is much more than the winter. But the meteorological conditions or weather condition remains such that it is quite favorable for the dispersion of the particles. So that's why we get the lower concentrations of particulate matter in summer. Okay. And the geographical position, the unique position of Kolkata at the easternmost part of the Indo-Gangetic Plain, it acts like a dustbin. Like the entire flow from the northwest India, Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, in the entire flow that gets accumulated over this kind of this part of the Indo-Gangetic Plain, Kolkata. Okay.
So that is the situation.
Yeah.
Gurumita, you are using us as a dustbin. What do you have to say about it? About the regional profile?
Right. So, Jonathan, now it's quite clear that when Delhi is, and everyone is talking about Delhi being so polluted,
yes,
but no one understands that when Delhi is polluted and is drawing so much of attention, that along with Delhi, the entire Indo-Gangetic Plain is like this today,
yes,
almost, right? And what is interesting that there are smaller towns in Delhi, in Indo-Gangetic Plain in northern India, which have levels today which are even higher than Delhi. But even though their annual averages are lower than Delhi. Now this tells you that when the entrapment happens, it happens at a huge scale. So Delhi cannot remain a green island there, right? And each and every city gets affected. Now learning from that, now what is very interesting that now scientists, they talk about an airshed. They say that you can actually differentiate between zones, geographical zones, which have common meteorological conditions and also the common air mass. Okay, that's how broadly they try to define different airsheds.
Right.
But that airshed boundary does not coincide with the administrative boundary of the states or the country.
Absolutely.
Right. So when we looked recently at, in fact, World Bank has delineated about 7 such airsheds in the entire South Asia, in the Indian subcontinent. And they are saying that if you take the West Central Indo-Gangetic Plain, that extends till Pakistan, or Central East IGP, that till Nepal, Bangladesh, or Brahmaputra airshed that includes Bangladesh and India, that is the kind of grouping that is happening in the airshed right now. So if we have to therefore take action, we need to consider that we need a regional model, one within the country itself.
Yes.
But don't talk about Kolkata, Delhi. Talk about the region and what needs to happen.
Right.
In fact, we have looked at some of the laws that globally, like US, Clean Air Act of US. In their Clean Air Act, they have introduced a provision called Good Neighbor Policy, where they make the upwind states responsible for the air quality of the downwind states.
Okay.
So when Dr. Chatterjee said that I'm getting all the waste from the north, that in the downwind way.
It's like an upstream and downstream river.
Yes. So you have to make Bihar and UP and Delhi responsible for air quality of West Bengal as well.
Yes.
Right. And
I'm requesting our Honorable Chief Minister to raise this issue with the Prime Minister in the next meeting. She has missed it out, I think.
Exactly. So today, in fact, in our Air Act, there is a provision of declaring a region as a critically polluted area.
Okay.
But it is applied very narrowly today by the Environment Ministry and CPCB. They apply this only to define the industrial cluster as a critically polluted zone. But you now need to expand the whole meaning of that and application and scope of the application to declare a region as critically polluted.
But Anumita, before I go over to Khan Saab and Salam Saab and the Tulada Saab for their comments, when it comes within a country, it's fine. I understand today or tomorrow, some kind of provision will be made, how it being from the northern part of the country, as Professor Chatterjee was saying, the Kolkata and surroundings have been getting affected, all those things. But if you would like to say Delhi and Pakistan, the Punjab border was talked about, unless you take the both sides into consideration, you're not going to do anything about it. Yeah. So how you propose, because you know the geopolitics and other things come into the picture. So what's your thought about it, Anumita, how the countries can go about it?
Right. So I think the time now has really come. And in fact, we had started with that. Just remember the Mali Declaration approach, right? So Mali Declaration was done in 1998. Until 2016, it was quite active. You know, when all the member state countries, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, all
the South countries,
all the South, right? They participated in that. And at that point of time, the whole agenda was also taking shape, that how we now need to do transboundary air quality monitoring, do modeling and science to see the movement, do source assessment at a regional scale, come up with policy. But somewhere after that, the funding for that dried up. Okay, but now the talk has again started to revive it and to, I mean, it's still there. It is still there. But how do you now bring it and a new life to it?
But apart from the declaration, Anumita, you were talking about, I think the political will from both sides and all sides are very important. You have to recognize that some things are beyond politics. If you talk about climate change or air pollution, these are beyond politics. So
and we do have such models. We do have such models in other parts of the world. Like in Europe, they do have a transboundary pollution convention, where the different member countries are signatories to it, and they have a framework for how to handle this. So I think it's at a South Asia scale, we now need to come up with that.
I hope that maybe the tier one, the governments will come up later, but the scientists like you will kind of put together something on board which can actually be pushed at an advocacy level. Professor Chatterjee, is quickly coming back to on what Anumita just said. As airshed, say the West Bengal and Bangladesh airshed are also pretty common. I was looking at a very interesting data, the lightning data. The lightning data of Bangladesh and West Bengal are so similar. So what's your take on that? Then I'll come to Abdul Salam Sam for his comment. But very quickly, on what's your take on this, say, West Bengal, Bangladesh airshed thing?
Yeah, I think if you find the moisture transport, the advection of moisture from Bay of Bengal, they follow the same path for Bangladesh as it follows for West Bengal. Okay, the amount of moisture, the vertical profile of moisture in the atmosphere is more or less similar over Bangladesh and West Bengal. Okay, and the surface characteristics, the surface roughness, the surface, the topographical features, these are more or less similar over.
These are fine. These are fine. Scientifically, you have found the similarity. But to address the problem, how one should go about it?
Yes, of course. I mean, the two governments should sit together and there is always, there is a proverb that if there is a will, there is a way. And for this air pollution in South Asia, control is concerned, I would say if there is a political way, there are a number of ways. If there is a political will.
But so there is a will, that will is something under SCANA. Perhaps the model of Salam Saab putting the alarm bells around the political parties, political people's houses may act as the trigger to that will. Alam Saab, how to do about this airshed, about your country and India and West Bengal part and Bangladesh? We share Sundarban, we share Ganges, we share so many things. And we share also air pollution. How to address that?
Yeah, actually, unfortunately.
I'm just going to Salam Saab first and then come to you. Salam Saab.
Okay, thanks. Actually, there is a very nice discussion. And also it's interesting to me. Maybe I start one thing. At the month of February, very close to Bay of Bengal, I found pollution level is much higher than even Dhaka city. Because all the pollution, Dr. Chatterjee already mentioned, is coming from Indo-Gangetic plain and passing over Bangladesh and eastern part of India and goes to the Bay of Bengal. And when wind direction changed, when it starts coming from Bay of Bengal, so all the pollution or part of the pollution going to Bay of Bengal is again bring to the land. And we have already pollution and getting pollution from Bay of Bengal. So that even the rural areas pollution is much higher for some days than in the cities.
But how you can address that problem collectively?
And another thing, you know, the IGP pollution, the geographically, the location of Bangladesh, you know, is like a canal. So all the pollution coming from IGP is passes over Bangladesh and eastern part of India, like Kolkata and that part, and most of the Bangladesh. It may be little bit not covered by this air shore, eastern side of Bangladesh, but most of the Bangladesh and eastern part of India. So all the pollution coming in this way. So this solution, definitely we have to do it. Otherwise we cannot survive, because, you know, WHO gave the standard value 5 microgram per meter cube and 10 microgram per meter.
Salam sir, we have to do it. We have to do it, but we talk about Tista, we talk about other rivers, we talk about Sundarbans. Hardly do we talk about air pollution at any political level.
And no, there is some discussion. There is some discussion, you know, not strong discussion. Definitely there are some discussion through.
Need to be more discussion.
Bali declaration. And there are, and also among our scientists, we are talking. There are some
that's very important.
But it's not strong enough to solve the problem. There are discussions. So
okay, I hope the discussion will get bigger and wider so that some tangible solution comes out. Now to Khan Alam Sahab. In fact, I interrupted you because I want to know from you very specifically that problem that Anumita has said, that this northern part of India is kind of borderline with Punjab, and you have so many polluted areas out there. So any kind of thought that how that can be managed unless a collaborative exercise from two governments can act?
Yes, of course. The transboundary pollution is very critical to be controlled, and it needs urgent action to mitigate. And for this purpose, the two side or the three side parties should sit together, and the stakeholder, the government, the politician should sit together, and we being the scientists propose the plans and the mitigation plans and the how to reduce the transboundary pollutions. So we, the scientists of the region, will give the suggestions to the politician, to the stakeholder, and then this is the job of the politician to control on the transboundary pollution. So in this regard, about the transboundary pollution, I want to share a very recent satellite image from NASA. So if you allow me, then I can share you, and it shows some transboundary pollutions, some hotspots of the air pollution in the region. So can I share it?
I think sharing may be a technical problem, because we will be putting it on the television, and then you have, how can you share it? You propose to do a screen share. I think let you talk about it. That's a better part of it, because sharing will become more complicated on television wise.
Yes, actually,
very quickly, briefly can discuss it.
Yeah. So during this autumn season or this winter season, like in October, November, and December till February, the transboundary pollution from Himalaya region, from this east-west region of Pakistan is very critical, and we have a lot of smoke particles, biomass burning smoke particle is coming to this region. So maybe the anthropogenic pollutions from our side, from Lahore, maybe from other city, can also travel to the Indian region, and the Indian region.
Absolutely, it can come across.
So unfortunately, the air pollution doesn't need any visa, and it's
yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That it doesn't need any visa. Very quickly, we have hardly 5 minutes time, and I start with Tulada Sahab. Prescription. Very quickly, we have discussed the sources, we have discussed the regional part of it, but I understand, and we all understand, that the transboundary way of looking at it is a long-term affair. You have to have a government-to-government plan that takes a long time. But people are choking every second. We are all choked. Our lungs have been choked. So according to you, for Kathmandu, what is the prescription 1, 2, 3 very quickly?
Well, more than Kathmandu, just looking at the transboundary pollution part.
Sure.
I think the prescription would be focused on the solution rather than the pollution. Now, nobody wants to say proudly that, Kathmandu is the most polluted city in the region, or, we're exporting pollution or so on. No politician would like to say that. But I think this is the solution is also transboundary. A lot of solution that is applicable to Delhi is applicable to Kathmandu as well. I'd like to learn how Delhi got, Chandni Chowk and Karol Bagh to be vehicle free. Yeah, can we learn that? I'm sure Delhi politicians will invite Kathmandu politicians to come and learn from there. They'll be very proud to show that. That is, I think, what we can focus on. The second thing is even I know, there's geopolitics makes it very difficult for us to talk to one another, especially at the political level. But at the scientific level, there has been some work that has happened, even at the political level. Anumita talked about the Mali Declaration 1998, then the Delhi Statement of SAARC Ministers of 2009. I think it's just this past decade that has kind of stopped. And if we can get this going again, particularly through some public pressure, that might help. And this whole the climate change discourse that is happening may allow us to do that as well. The third thing I'd like to do is, some work is going on. For example, in Kathmandu, ISI mode, I know they're working on this as well. Even, in fact, day after tomorrow, Monday, they're having a whole day workshop on this very issue of transboundary air pollution with scientists from all over the region. So I think that has to continue. And if you look at what happened with the Mali Declaration, the funding dried up because most of the funding was coming from UNEP, which is outside. Now we need to make that funding also homegrown. Now that a lot of our countries are also
funding has to be homegrown,
graduating from LDC to a little bit higher than that. I think we can raise fund regionally.
Yes, I think to save the lives and
that be
more people being choked. I think funding we have to develop ourselves. We can't wait for UNEP to give
that. I think we can raise fund regionally.
Yes, I think to save the lives and
that be more
save people being choked. I think funding we have to develop ourselves. We can't wait for UNEP to give fund and then only start working on that. Very, very, very important. Salam Saab, very quickly. I have hardly 5 minutes time. So very quickly, prescription according to you. Transboundary is something which you have to work on. But to save Dhaka at this point of time, according to you, what's the prescription? You have to unmute yourself, Salam Saab.
Thank you. So my first prescription in this region, India is the biggest country. So India should take the lead. If India take lead and takes some steps, that will copy by Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, And the biomass burning is a serious issue in India and also the whole region. So if India takes action to control the biomass burning pollution, and we can follow that. And coal burning in India already taking a lot of measures to control the coal burning pollution. So this all we can copy and we can control our pollution. This one thing. Another thing, locally for Bangladesh, we already taking a lot of steps, but we need much more steps. For example, brick kilns, we already transfer from FCK to zigzag and other technology. And we are planning to phase out this brick. We will go to concrete block. So we need this kind of measure more
of these measures. More of these measures.
That really helps to reduce the air pollution.
Great. Khan Alam Saab, prescription for Pakistan.
Yes. Apart from transboundary air pollution, we need to reduce industrial and vehicular emissions in order to improve the air quality in the region. In this regard, our government, particularly our current Prime Minister Imran Khan, take serious steps in order to tackle air pollution on priority basis. However, it is not the job of the government only. Individuals can take steps in their daily life to reduce personal emission, such as by using public transport or use some renewable energy sources to reduce the emission.
But Khan Saab, if you have to use public transport or renewable energy, I'm not talking about Pakistan only. I think it's true for all countries. The government has to make arrangement. You have to have good enough public transport to be used. You have to arrange or organize the renewable energy to be installed. So I think government has some responsibility to facilitate all these things, isn't it?
Exactly. I'm agree with you. The government should provide funds to the, unfortunately, during the last few years, the government takes serious action on these air pollution before they consider air pollution less important. But
Okay.
now they are considering the air pollution as a threat to the human health. So that's why they are giving projects to the universities to work on this. And apart from this, the main thing is like we the politicians should sit together from India, from Pakistan.
Absolutely. That's the whole point.
Yeah,
That's
from
the
Saudi.
Absolutely.
On the government on high level, if we don't take serious steps, so for us it is not possible that we can stop the air pollution and their consequences.
Right. Professor Chatterjee.
Yeah, as far as South Asian air pollution is concerned, I think the government of India, government of Pakistan, government of Nepal, government of Bangladesh, and why not government of China, they should sit together and discuss together how to mitigate the transboundary pollution and all these things. And I hope, I dream that there should be some COP1, Conference of Party 1 for South Asian countries in next 2-3 years. And as far as the prescription is concerned, I have, because number of studies are there, we have enough studies, we know the sources, and we know the steps, what needs to be taken. So I have 3 prescriptions. Number 1 is political will. Number 2 is political will. Number 3 is political will. That's all.
Right. You remember me, you remind me of what once Sunil Gavaskar has talked about Vivian Richards. He was asked who are the top 5 players of the world. And he said, Vivian Richards, Vivian Richards, Vivian Richards, Vivian Richards, and Vivian Richards. That's you reminded me. Great. Anumita, COP on air pollution. Maybe a treaty. I'm not joking. Maybe a South Asian treaty on air pollution. If we can have treaty on so many treaties at the sidelines of COP26 on coal and other issues, why can't we have a treaty on air pollution, which is killing the most people in the world in South Asia? Anumita.
Absolutely. So we should be able to look at a more firm a negotiating platform where you can actually work out the details. But at the same time, you can deal with the regional problem if you fix your national problem. And for that national problem, government has to come forward and set legally binding clean air targets for each and every region, even within the country. For that, commit resources. And the resources should be able to fund the multi-sector action, which means you need clean fuel and technology transition in all sectors. You need mobility transition so that by 2030, 90% of the travel should happen by public transport. And you should have a circular economy so that municipal services can completely deal with waste management. Now, and just eliminate solid fuel from each and every kitchen of this country. And the final point that I want to make, the big opportunity that is emerging today is a promise in Glasgow made by India, which is to reduce 1 billion tons of carbon by 2030 and 45% intensity of the GDP.
By 2030.
Now look for this co-benefit and co-control strategy. And that is, so if that is going to happen, and WHO has very recently revised the new air quality standard. India is right now revising its own standard. Don't make standard a paper tiger. Make it real by making it legally binding with compliance and deterrence mechanism so that we meet the clean air target in a time-bound manner.
I think absolutely important. And I think Anumita really sums it up for me. I think I think the first one is to look at your own backyard. The countries need to look at their own backyard. And when I say countries, it has to be decentralized. The cities and the regions and even the villages, each and everybody has to look at his back. That in a village, am I burning at my backyard or not? So that's very important. But once that being done, that is not enough. We need to talk with each other. We need to talk with everybody around. And maybe as she's pointing out, Anumita is pointing out, a legally binding pointer for the country, and maybe then graduating from that, a legally binding target for the region. Because I think we owe it. Our governments owe it. When so millions of people are being killed, are being murdered by this poisoned air, you cannot say that geopolitics is preventing me to talk with you. It just cannot happen like that in a civilized world. So I think time is up. And I really request all of you, your frontiers, you have played the frontier role in your respective country on air pollution. Maybe some pressure group may be formed with the scientists or the other experts who have been working on it, and push each and every government to come on board to talk about air pollution, to take not just funding research, but do something on ground so that people in South Asia don't suffer the way they're suffering right now. Thank you for your time. Another day we'll talk about climate change, the co-benefit that Onumita talked about. I think another day, but for today we are up with our time. Thank you for your time. Thank you everybody for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.